Good evening. Let's see here. Background chill stuff today. All right. So, last time on Game Dev, we had, where am I looking here? Gone and started doing land block generation. And I didn't review it entirely on stream. I did review it yesterday, had a couple concerns, so we'll go over that, and then we will get into continuing that. So, it seems like it did a pretty good job at doing it. There were initially we were going to have it do like group land blocks that were connecting together that were in the batch that it got, and while it sort of coded something to do that, it didn't really meet what I had in my head of what I wanted it to do. And then I started thinking about it, and one other problem with doing that is it might be grouping something that was queued up a good bit apart. So we get a land block queued at, let's just say, 5 p.m. and it doesn't get picked up until like 5:05. But then another land block that connects to that was queued at just before that got picked up at 5:05, for example. Now you've got this way out of order generation of land blocks. So like the one that was queued at 5:05 may be different because there's another one between those two that technically was requested first and should get priority to generate it. And then you don't have that effect on that land block anymore. So it really kind of throws that weird. That's not really the end of the world if that were to happen, but there might be a situation where it seems strange. So I decided to just not do the grouping at all. We're just going to do sequentially, one at a time, not parallel anything. I think what could happen in the future if it is not fast enough is rather than grouping the entire batch that way, do a couple parallel things. Like you can do one, and then add a second parallel one in there if it doesn't touch that one at all, and just do those two at the same time. So maybe you can double the speed, right? Maybe go to 3, but you'd really have to wait until all 3 are done before you picked up the next one, or make sure the next one doesn't touch the 2 that are still in progress. You could kind of get some parallelism going in there, but the grouping thing, doing them out of order, might throw some weird things happening in there. So I pulled it out. I didn't like the code it was doing it with anyway. It was not terrible. It might have done some grouping, but not the extent that I would want it to do. So that got pulled out. And then also in reviewing it, I looked at the queries were fine. The actual job itself, well, not this, that's not the job itself. This, yeah. So generate land block async. So this guy, I went through and reviewed it, and it mostly makes sense what it's doing. I mean, it all makes sense what it's doing. But I had a concern with it. My experience with .NET and it managing transactions in the database has not been good. Like it typically, to me, if you have anything that takes any length of time with .NET doing a transaction, you risk a lot of things getting locked up funny. I will say I did read up on the differences between how locks are applied in Microsoft SQL Server, which I'm actively working with in real life, and Postgres, and they are different. Postgres doesn't do the same type of page and table locks that um, SQL Server does. It mainly just does row locks. So that limits the transaction blocking and locking a great deal. But regardless, you still want to make those as quick as possible, just because it's not good to have long running transactions that are locking things. So initially, when it had written this, at the very top here, it had done start transaction. And then it started doing all the stuff with looking up, okay, let me resolve the regions and get all this information, blah, 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 doing all this stuff to get the information it needs to generate the new land block. All of it was read only. Like all of it was read existing data, not writing anything at all. So none of that needs to be inside the transaction. But it is a non-zero time it was adding, or would add. I don't know what the time actually is, but it's non-zero. So I reworked it and moved this little begin transaction way down to the bottom as late as possible. The only possible weirdness that could happen is if this bit here selects the land block, checks to see if the land block already exists. And if I ended up doing some weird parallel thing where it happened to have two different workers pick the same land block up on two different requests to redo it, basically an admin override with the only time that would happen, then this could not detect it here. Then do this, and then you have two things racing to insert the same land block in there, and one of them is going to fail because it's going to get a unique key constraint violation. But I'm not worried about that. So, but now the transaction is simply around inserting the thing and inserting the new land block or updating it if I'm rerunning it from the admin thing, and then updating the adjacency data on the land blocks that are affected by this one being created. So 2 update statements is all in that transaction now. So that's a much shorter time frame, much happier with that. We'll see how it works. I'm still not sold on .NET transactions. I don't even like transactions inside of short stored procedures in SQL Server. It's you basically just want to do everything as small as possible. I get that I don't want to necessarily insert it and not update it. And if one of those fails, you want to roll it back. I get that. This case really isn't even that extreme. If this one fails, then this never happens, right? So whatever. If this one fails, you still have the land block. You could just retry this and do it again, right? And that's fine. But there's not really a time where having the land block exist and the adjacency data not updated would be bad, but it doesn't hurt either. So we'll see how this performs. I'm a pretty big stickler on performance, so we'll be doing a lot of timing to see what things look like. So yeah, but I reviewed everything. It added a lot of stuff just to kind of go through it briefly. It updated the Docker Compose because it needed to add the batch size as a config setting in there because I asked for that. I didn't want it to be hard coded in compile because the only way to fix it then is to recompile it and redeploy it. I can't just change a number and restart. That's always kind of silly. I didn't really want to put it in the database because it's not something that's going to change constantly. It's just going to be those, well, I need to redeploy this or restart this so it does things in smaller batches. It's a quick, I don't need the database bit. And then you're also querying the database more for that setting. That's just more load. So let's see here. It did update the endpoints. So we have, well, that's just the thingy. This guy here. We do have 2 new endpoints. One that is land block generation requests. So you can create a new request. This would be a post. And then we have a get for get requests. And Um, I put this to do in here, and I must have misread this because I missed this take 200. I was thinking it was only return the last one to me, but it's actually returning the last 200 to me. That are just the status of the most recent 200, which is probably plenty. Because I don't think the query that it's running is a tough one. Await query dot. Okay, so this isn't even what I was thinking. Because there are a set of queries in here, but this is just claiming a batch, resolving coordinates, marking a completed request, marking a failed request. That's all that's in here. So yeah, so I don't. My to do here is kind of pointless now. So yes, we added a couple API things in there, API methods for the admin endpoint. Obviously, we added some entities. We added this nice method, and I did kind of go through and think this through to make sure the math made sense to me too. I'm pretty sure it makes sense to me. We will see if both myself and Claude thought of it correctly or not, but this should be good. But it was it adding the coordinates to the region really helped make this stuff easier because it would have been a lot harder to traverse adjacency data to get a lot harder. Not so much harder, but also slower. That's the bigger thing. This makes it super easy to figure out what's adjacent and what's not. What else? Obviously, we've got this was from earlier where we added the well, this is not. This is adding the actual landblock request queue table in the world database. So that was getting put in. And what else did we do on this bit? I think that's it. So it did add a new ADR to talk about our queuing, just to kind of keep things understanding why we have quartz and why we rolled our own queuing, just because it wasn't necessary to go crazy. But so yeah, so it always adds a lot more than I expect it to add every time we do something. But I'm glad to have the documentation so I can go back and reference it for why did I do this. Dog farted. Ugh. God. So yeah, so now I haven't done anything on the admin bit yet. Because I still need to fill in the blank because there were a couple notes in here about it here, like this, for example. We had not implemented the actual creation of the region yet. I think for a testing standpoint, what I'm going to end up doing, instead of coming up with the idea was we had a bunch of names already in the database for regions. So if we looked at regions, the idea would be we have one, but we'd have a whole bunch in here and they wouldn't be marked in use and they wouldn't have coordinates yet. But they'd have their GUID and their name. And we'd go find the next one that wasn't in use or pick a random one that wasn't in use and then make that our new region. I think from a development standpoint, just don't have to worry about that bit initially is to figure out what names I'm going to use is I'll just say, if no regions are available, then create a new one called region and underscore the X underscore the Y, right? And use that. Just use that as your new region name. So yeah, that's what we're going to do for regions. We just got to figure out where that lives. That is going to have to live. I don't see why it doesn't just live and generate land block as like an inline thing it does. Like if I'm going to make a new land block and it needs a new region because that region doesn't exist, then we just need to create the region. Um, so like this bit here that it's doing is like, oh, the region doesn't exist. Well, then we create the region. So this really wouldn't be necessary. We should always have a region. Um, so what this little piece here is it's saying go resolve the regions or what region each of the land blocks would be in that are adjacent to us, right? Um, and adds them to the regions and everything, and then it comes down here and says, okay, any unresolved or resolvable neighbors are the ones that we have region IDs for. There shouldn't be any that don't have a region ID. So it should come before this. And it's probably going to simplify some of this too, because some of this was written solely because it didn't know if it had a region or not. Now we will know it has a region. And that'll work. So I think that just is going to happen here. And maybe that's in its own little transaction to create the region. Because we don't want that we definitely want that to be blocked when it's creating the region, so that something else doesn't create the same one. The constraint will stop that, but it'd be weird. So I think that's what we do. It's just when we create a new land block, part of that process will be to pick a new region name and assign coordinates to it if necessary. So that's what we're going to do here. We'll continue this thread. Let's think. So during the land block creation process, you are looking up adjacent land blocks and their regions, as well as determining if this new land block needs a new region. The code currently skips anything that a region doesn't already exist for, but we just need to update it to create a region if it needs a new one. This should be in its own little transaction so we don't elongate the one we already have, and other land blocks can use the information faster. Normally the regions table would have a bunch of names without coordinates or without coordinates and marked and not marked as used. But for the sake of testing, if there are no regions unused to pick up and assign coordinates to, then just have it insert a new record with a name new region XY, where the X and Y are the coordinates. That way I don't need to come up with a billion names right up front here. I'm going to plan this first because I don't want to just go changing everything yet. What other context do I need to give it? I'll just say, basically, there should never be a case where a region that is needed for a land block does not exist. So that should simplify our code for looking up adjacency data as well. All right, let's see what it thinks about that. Because I imagine what's going to happen is a good bit of this is going to get simplified. So resolvable neighbors should be all of them at that point. If it finds neighbors, so neighbors come in here, this guy here, they will all have a region XY. And then all of these should resolve. So everything will resolve, end up in this resolved thing. Actually, I don't know how much this is going to go away. I think just the idea that there could be one. Well, this won't be necessary. Like, it won't be necessary to say, well, where there's not a region, basically. That just won't be necessary anymore. So almost done thinking. It's about to tell us how crazy we are to try this. This is a long almost done thinking. Usually it's almost done thinking, closer to being almost done thinking. Thought it was almost done, but it wasn't. It lied. So then we'll have this, and then we'll probably do a commit on this and do a separate conversation to update the admin tool, kind of what we were talking about the other day. Next to there on the right, have like being able to traverse in any direction that we east, south, northwest, all that stuff. And if it doesn't have a land block defined, that it defines the land block. It's a define land or generate land block rather than a move. And then we reload the thing, and hopefully quickly it will be a land block we can move to. And we'll see how fast It could be up to 5 seconds because it could be waiting 5 seconds to do its thing to check for stuff to process, but we'll see how fast things happen. All right. So it actually depends. Expands the world beyond the manually seeded starting grid. Blah 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 blah. This is a lot more than I thought it was. A quick summary of the key call I'm making to represent an unused, unpositioned pool region. Cleanly under the existing unique XY index need to become nullable. Musgrave treats nulls distinct and unique indexes, so any number of pool rows can coexist without touching that index. Reverse is part of what shipped earlier this session, making them. Wait, you made them not null? I didn't. I missed that. It made them not null? Boo. I didn't know. I missed it. Data. Migrations. World. Add region coordinates. Nullable false? Yeah, I completely missed that because I would have said otherwise. Yep. Okay. Well, it would have broken as soon as I inserted the new record, and I would have found out. But we'll fix it now. It's the new region provisioning repository with its own short transaction, the fallback. Okay. So all this stuff isn't new. Region presents a hard precondition that something this task builds per the. Wait, this is a different one? Did it just add stuff at the bottom here? It did, didn't it? Follow up, yeah, okay. So I was about to say, oh, this sounds really familiar. All right, so the code currently just leaves that neighbor's adjacent data slot null and moves on. Region creation is a precondition. User wants that change. When a neighboring region is missing, create it rather than skip it so the region grid stays populated one step ahead of wherever land blocks are actually being generated. Directly serving the original reason were added. Region creation must happen in its own short transaction, separate from generate land block asyncs existing already shortened transaction. So creating a region doesn't extend how long that transaction locks are held. Yep. Become an existing, unpositioned, unused region. A preceded region's row with a name but no coordinates yet in use equals false, and assign it the needed coordinates. Fallback for testing convenience, since no such pool is seeded yet. If none is available, insert a brand new row name. Yeah. Okay. Yes, they're going to fix that. That's the nullable bit. That's all going to make sense. Region provisioning repository. Ensure region async. Okay, so it's going to basically build another bit that figures out if the region exists, and if not, updates an existing one or creates a new one. So we'll just have a nice quick ensure, give it the region coordinates we're looking for, and let it do its little bit. So that works. Still interesting that it starts the transaction here when it just goes to look it up. But I think I actually want that, because if I don't, that goes back to there's a chance another process saying doing the same thing, and we want one to win, not them both. So then it's going to go into the generate land block thing. Yeah, the resolvable neighbors filter goes away entirely, replaced with an unconditional projection over all 8 neighbors. Yep. Yep, that is true. And now it doesn't mean 2 different things potentially. Yeah, okay. Do it. Shouldn't be a big change. We should be able to see this stuff pretty quickly. Since this one's already committed, it's going to be a new migration, which is fine. We'll survive. So this won't actually get updated. This will change. Like all of this stuff is going to get reworked. Just checking a work thing. It's almost done thinking about reading a file and running commands. What's it doing? Migration for nullable. Made the new thingy. Applied the migration. Verified it. Updated. Scaffold the migration to drop the leftover database to false to region XY. Yeah. It's getting there. Doing all the validation right now. Good catch, huh? Yep. That was the original intent, and you changed. Well, you didn't change the intent. I just wasn't clear with what I told you, so it's fine. many tasks did it have? What was the original task list it was using? Unless it's adding these to the original ones. You do. It should all be changed. There we go. So all this is different now. So this didn't change. It's still looking up the neighbors and resolving the regions on them. Any region that still doesn't exist gets created now in its own short transaction rather than left as a permanent gap. Keeps the region grid populated. Yeah, so here, and well, I say if they basically is looking up the regions for all the adjacent ones it finds should already have a region. It's really just checking to see does this new one need a new region. And if so, it goes ahead and generates the region and sets it on that unresolved pair. And then all that stuff's valid, and then it just goes through and does what it was doing before. So this was the key little bit here that was added. Not a lot. Not a lot changed. So all the rest of this stuff is normal. All right. Well, hang on. Am I misinterpreting what it said here? Request own target region is still a hard precondition, not something that's provisions. Tighten the admin NQ check from region exists to region exists and is positioned. That's like, wait, what? Hang on. So that means it changed stuff. No. Here. This. Now this is the actual process. Where is my, there we go. Here's my post. Region's position. So it takes I don't think this is doing what I want it to do. A pool region, name only. No question. Can't be a landblock request own region. That's not true. I mean, that only works if I start with 9 regions already. And only one of them actually has stuff in it. So that would mean in here, unless it did it, let's see, maybe it did it and I'm overthinking this. No, it didn't. There would have to be 9 in here. And there's not. So it will never expand. If I tell it to go beyond the border of this region, it will never work because this is saying that the region already has to exist. So that's not right. It should just be if the request I don't think the precondition that the region for a land block that is being requested to be generated has to exist is valid. the game will start with a single region that is fully populated with land blocks, but no other regions around it. So when we request the land block, request any land block that borders this region, it will never have a region in existence yet. At that point, we need to create the region, not when the land block we are generating is on the edge of an existing region. Regurgitate. I've never spelled regurgitate right. I suck at spelling. I regurgitate that back to me to make sure you understand what I am saying, and I'll put you back in plan mode. Just because I don't trust you not be in plan mode. Yeah, think more, buddy. Think more. If the region exists anywhere in the world at that point, as soon as a player reaches the edge of start region and needs the next land block generated, you scroll too fast. Damn it. That land block's own target region is one that has never existed. Not a neighbor of an existing land block's region, but the primary region the request itself is targeting. Let me read that again. As soon as a player reaches the timing is not right because it's technically reaches the last land block on the edge of a region. Yeah, reaches the edge of the start region and needs the next land block generated. So I guess that's fair. They are the edge of the region, start region. That land block's own target region. That land block's own target region is one that has never existed. Not a neighbor of an existing land block's region, but the primary region that the request itself is targeting. Right now, per 6 as he built it, region auto provisioning only kicks in for a land block's neighbors during generation. I explicitly kept the request's own target region must already exist and be positioned as a hard precondition. Yeah, enforced at queue time at that endpoint. But per the scenario above, that precondition is false in exactly the situation that matters most. The very first land block generated past the edge of the start region is a case where the request's own region doesn't exist yet, not just some neighbor's region. There shouldn't be a distinction between own region and neighbor region at all when it comes to whether a region is allowed to not exist yet. Both should go through the same resolve or create logic. The request own region isn't special, it's just another region reference that might need provisioning, which further implies the request itself can't be keyed by an existing region ID foreign key the way it is today, since you can't hold a foreign key to a row that doesn't exist yet. The request would need to identify its target some other way. Region grid coordinates or global coordinates, and let region resolution creation happen when the job actually processes, not at NQ time. Did I get that right? So let me think here for a second, because if we look at the queue, I think I kind of see a little problem that it has pointed out that I did not think about when we did it. So yeah, see, this region ID can't be null. Huh. So that is a problem, because I do have to say that it's not in the like. I actually think what Claude did is right, which means I really have to see at least have the 8 surrounding regions defined, but not populated yet. Because I can't think of a way you can queue this request otherwise. If you don't specify a region ID, where is it expecting to put it? It has no idea. Absolutely need to have a region specified at queue time. Otherwise, we have no idea where the land block should go. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like I really just need the game to start with 9 regions defined, but only the middle one has the entire grid of land blocks defined. The rest are empty. That way, what you have already built works fine, because as we approach the edge of one of the now empty regions, the new adjacent regions will get created and can be used for future land block requests. See if I think I'm thinking about this right, because that makes sense. Now I get why it did it that way. I was thinking the region doesn't get created until you need it for a land block, but if you don't have the region defined, you can't tell the system where to put the land block you want generated. Start region sits at grid 0, 0. In use is true, just confirmed, yeah. If you seed 8 more region rows at its immediate 8 grid neighbors, yeah, each position in use true, but with 0 land blocks in them, then any land block request whose own region should otherwise not exist, yet is avoided at the first step outward. Wait. Then any land block request whose own region would otherwise not exist yet is avoided at the first step outward because the first ring always pre-exists. Beyond that first ring, the invariant maintains itself forever for free using code that's already shipped. When a land block near the edge of a ring 1 region gets generated, its neighbor resolution step will create the ring 2 region as a side effect before anything is ever enqueued against ring 2 as its own region. The next ring out always gets created 1 generation step ahead of ever being needed as someone's own target region. It only holds because travel generation is physically contiguous, no map, click, teleport per the GDD. Nothing ever requests a land block several rings away from existing content in one jump. The invariant is never asked to hold across gap. Yep. The manual admin request targeting a generally non-existent far-flung region would still correctly 404, which is reasonable for that surface. Yes. So no schema change, no change to the region must exist and be positioned, precondition, no reconstructing the request job flow, just a new seed migration, adding 8 region rows around start region, matching the existing that. Okay, so now it is saying so we're going to make, well, that's already done. I go further down, I guess. I guess it just that's right. I never actually had it do this one yet. I guess somewhere in here it is going to seed those 8 for me. Okay. Let's do it. It should just be adding the migration because everything else is done. Because this won't change. This won't change. So now this is actually saying yeah, it makes sense because if we don't have a region ID, we can't look up, does that region and XY exist? No? Okay, then we don't do anything with it, right? It will only include the adjacency ones for the landlocks that actually exist, but we have to have the region there to be able to even do the query in the first place with the right region ID. So I'm guessing now we've got another one here. Yeah, so we've got a seed here that is just adding 8 more on all those coordinates with the name that we described. Yeah, new region XY. There it is. So yeah, that might actually work now. Now if we go back to the database and look at the data, oh, that's not the right, that's the request table. Regions, and I refresh this, now we've got 9 of them. All the adjacent ones to 00 exist now. And they've got the name just this isn't what we would ship. It would just be, it's just test data. It's still talking. Why is it still talking? Did it actually do that? Let's see. So we look at land blocks. Did it generate a new land block? It did. It's putting random test data in my database. Damn it. That's fine. Okay, so this is at 025. So if we look at the adjacency data for this, west, this is in region 6. So that is let's see. This guy. So region 10. So that one is to the east of us. So then here, if we go back to this adjacency data, there is nothing east of this land block yet. There won't be anything north or south of it. There's nothing northeast of it and nothing southeast of it. It will only be west, northwest, and southwest. All of those region IDs are the original region ID, so that's correct. And it's going to be all of these little IDs, these land block things. So I don't care to validate all that. We'll do it in pictures when we get the admin tool updated. I'm not doing that with brain power. Okay. So let me commit that, because that all makes sense now. We have so many ADRs generated. So this one is the region. So this one's here. This is explaining why we did what we did. Okay. Yeah, whatever. Sometimes the harder bits it puts in here are just like, whatever. Not harder. It's just, it's coded to do that. Why is that harder? Okay. Let's commit this. Added region and land block generation to the admin API, and I guess, let's see here. Yeah, no, man, this is just the admin, the queue at the actual working. All that's going to change is when we put this for the, in the client side, it's going to be part of the move action on the client. It'll say if the client moves into a region whose adjacency, or a land block whose adjacency data is null somewhere, then queue up the appropriate request to do it. It won't call this. That's just going to happen in the background. We'll just do that really quick, and then we're good. So, but it'll use the exact same stuff that's happening in the worker, because this is all in the worker. None of this stuff is, well, this is in the worker. That's the claim. And then the generate land block async is actually in the data. So that's in the core system. If I come over here and hit this, that's here in the repository for in the data project. So yeah. Okay. All right, so let's commit these in there to the add a region land block generation, worker job, and admin APIs to uh, utilize new queue. All right, let's commit that. Now we're going to go to a new session again because I don't want to blow this one out. And let's see. Check some other screen really quick. Hold please. I'm looking for this. All right. Okay. So now we just need to update our admin tool to have some stuff on it. So what we have now in the admin tool, just have a look at it really quick and go here, and under tools, admin tool, run it. So what we have now is we've got two tabs. We've got our diagnostics, this checks the APIs, make sure they work. I don't know why the admin is slower. The public API goes boom. Admin is just slower. It's always slower? Or they just have to wake up? I don't know. Let me close it and reopen it and then just see if it stays slow when I click it this time. Client's fat. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. God dang it. Windows, stop it. No, it's just slower. Okay, that's another problem to look at later. One at a time. So we're going to pull a random land block. And we're going to chuck it in here. See, that loaded really fast that time. I wonder if it's not the API. I wonder if it's the actual, this spinning up the additional connection, not the connection string. Endpoint for in memory. I wonder if that's why it's slow. Because that loaded really fast. And that's calling the admin API too. So if I change this to 5, I should get a different one. Yep, and it's insta load. So okay. So I want to add over here to the right 8 buttons that either say move to or move north, move northwest, move northeast, move east, move south, those, or generate if the adjacent land block doesn't exist. And that way we should be able to start traversing around and seeing things get generated and added and whatnot. So, what order are these showing in by create? Do I don't have create? I do have create date. Yeah. Created at descending. There we go. Okay, so what do we tell it when it is? So I now want to add a grid of 8 buttons that represent each of the adjacent land blocks for the land block that I have loaded. If the adjacent land block exists, it should say move cardinal direction, where the cardinal directions would be north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and southwest. If the land block does not yet exist, it should say create cardinal direction instead. When clicking a move button, it should reload the UI with the land block that the adjacency data says is there. If when clicking a create button, it should queue up the creation of that land block via the admin API. And not change the UI at all. Except some confirmation message somewhere that it was requested. Okay. And that will get us to be able to translate land blocks. Move around land blocks in the admin tool. We have built nothing on the client side yet, but just want to get this part working because this will all get reused on the client side. Okay. I just told it to do auto and not plan. Oh, well, we'll see what it does. We have a fresh slate on this commit, so we'll see exactly what it changes. I'm gonna check one thing though. Oh yeah, okay, there it is. Just making sure that 1440p stream was still going out, and it is. And the higher bit rate on 1080 is nice as well. Cool. All right, back to Cloud. Sorry. 60,000 tokens for that, huh? If we can get this working, then we've made good progress, because then the next step is I'm thinking it's dealing with generating the subland blocks. I'm just trying to think where that lives. So where my brain was thinking is that a when you request the land block, it's just the next step after the land block transaction. So like this bit, oh, we're not in the right project anymore, are we? Is it still open? It's still open. So after this transaction commits to create the land block, do we then immediately just go into building the subland block, or do we queue up a build subland block job and let that go do it, and let the land block job just get through all the creations and let subland block go after that? I don't know. Because we don't want anybody to move into a land block that hasn't had subland blocks generated yet, regardless. So it's not like breaking it up buys us anything. In fact, it probably slows it down a bit, because just queuing something else up in another queue means there's natural latency between the time it gets picked up and the time it's done. So I think it's just part of this. It's just after this transaction commits, then we go and do the subland block bit. And I'm sure it should build out a separate method and everything to do that. It doesn't need to be in line this guy, but um, I think that has to happen. I don't see a reason to build a separate queue for subland block generation, because this part is not complicated. This should be very fast to create the land block. It's the subland block bit that's going to take a bit. Let me close this. How you doing, Claude? Yeah, it's already done. It's building the project, see if it works. Wait, we changed the admin API. What did we change about the admin API? What did you do to the admin API, sir? No. 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 Absolutely free. Why? We have every bit of information we need here for this request. So the request for a land block generation, if I go to that, is a region ID, which I guess we don't know in the admin tool. We know if it exists what it is, but if it doesn't exist, we don't know what it is yet. So I mean, this part here is the same, right? This didn't change. So it ends in the same place. It's just doing the extra work here to figure out the region. Okay. I don't entirely hate it, but um, I get over it. This is the admin side. It's fine. So here we've got that. The model has changed. So we define the directions in an array of array strings, key value pairs, basically. It's probably better to say that's a label and not a direction itself. Neighbor async. Create neighbor async direct. Okay, so it's just going to go into here, which is a new method at the bottom here, and call the API. Okay. Some cleanup stuff, input ID. Refresh labels. Yes, that makes sense. We can call that from multiple places now. Now, let's see. We'll get the references. Refresh the labels. You know, when you look at a word too much and it starts looking like it's spelled wrong, that's what I just saw here with labels. Like, that doesn't look right. It's fine. So if it's move, where is it determined if it's move or create? Oh, here. Okay. Then it calls this to load the land block. Okay, got it. So this is our determination of, do we have one set in the adjacency data, and otherwise we return null. And if it's null, it goes down and creates. Otherwise, it just loads it and returns. Okay. So, did it added this? It resolves the neighbor's global coordinates via world geometry, finds the target region. 404, checks it for existing land block or already queued request there, and otherwise in queues would request exactly like the. It is listening to me. The client only ever sends a direction. Now, this is the admin client, but whatever. Where math state server side consists with a server owns all game state rule, which makes sense. And that's actually, now that I think about it, it's the better way to go because it could get generated in the background while the admin client was just sitting open for a while. And I don't want it to create a new one. If it exists, just go pull it instead. So, yeah. I would have done the bad way. 3x3 compass grid. 3x3 compass grid? What's in the middle? Okay. Well, shall we see if it's remotely close or not? That's still just slow. And that one's instant. But now it'll be fine. All right, we ready for the magic? Ooh. I am very mad. I just realized what I read and then I saw, I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted. I still want all of the data. But I wanted the grid over here on the side. Because now all I'm doing is trusting the app is showing the buttons correct. And I don't like that. Okay, let's fix that first. Because I still want to see the data. I want to be able to look at the data and say, okay, if I hit east, this is the grid that I should see load up here, basically, right? But now I can't tell what it is because it's hidden completely. Can you put back the text information and have the grid of buttons to the right side of it? I want to be able to both see the data and navigate with the buttons to validate the data changes as expected. Put it back, you monkey. I guess I didn't even look at the, I looked at the view model. I did not look at this to see what it had done. I got rid of all that data and replaced it with buttons. Yep. It was nice looking with there. Yeah, there you go, back. There we go. See, now that none of that has changed. We've just got probably an extra column in there now. And all the button stuff is just here. Better. Cool. Now, come back here. That should be what I expect it to be. I bet you this goes instant now. Yeah, there's something about it allocating that endpoint that takes a second. Okay, that's fine. That's got to be what's happening. Okay, so now I can see everything again, and I know that west, northwest, and southwest should be all creates, and they are, and everything else is move. I am at 04. So if I move north, I should go to this 3 value from this 4. North, we're at the 3 value now. Ooh, even update that for me. Nice. If I go south, I got the 4 there that I was just at. Still have all the stuff on our west that is not there. Keep going up. Keep going up. I go one more north. And now stuff north of me is also missing because I'm at the top left corner of the region. And now all of these are crates and only these are moves. Nice. Actually looks right. If I move southeast, they're all going to change the moves because now we'll have everything populated. Yep. Go back northwest. We are traversing our landscape in the most technical way possible. Here's a bunch of GUIDs and buttons. Enjoy. This is my game right now. All right. Now, if we go north, it should queue it. Let me get ready over here. Hang on. So we got this created as, so I can refresh this and I'll see it actually puts some extra stuff in there already. You butthead. Anyway, whatever. Is that the different region? That is a different region. That's fine. We'll get that going. Let me close this. Terrain types. And our regions. None of these are going to change because we'll have them all in existence. I don't need that one. Or this one. This one is one we will see. It clearly works because it's seeing stuff. Okay. We should see a new thing pop into there. And then we should see a new land block get created. And the region north of where I'm at is going to be -1 on the, or no, 0 on the X, right? Because we're not going east or west, and -1 on the Y. So that's going to be this region. So we should see a 3 pop into place once we reload it on our region. It should be 0, -1. So let's queue up our north. Queue generation of the north land block. All right, so if we go look at our database now, at our generation requests, there's our queue. The region we requested was 3. That is correct. It is at 050, and that's right, because we are on the far left, so it's 0x, and the very bottom y, which is 50. So that's actually correct. It's already done. What I don't have here, like I have a next attempt at, what I don't have is a time that it picked it up and then the time it completed. I'm going to have that, add that, because that's important. There's one thing to know when you're allowed to attempt it and when it was created, but it's also important to know when you actually started it and when you actually finished it. We don't have the actually started time. So I need to add that, because that's how you really check your performance. Not, yeah, it's interesting to see the delay. Like I can see the delay. I have math to do that, but I need to know how long it actually took to do the work. And then here, oh, this was the test that I just had to refresh. Okay, so this was the one that it should have created. So this one is at 050 and 3. So now, if I just load this again, the north will exist. The north exists. And it's a really random looking GUID because it's randomly generated rather than a seed GUID. And if I move north, the southeast is there, but nothing else. That's perfect. And we are now in new region 0, -1, which is 0, -1xy, 050. Holy crap, it works. I had this working in my proof of concept, but it was all freaking hard coded. So, like, okay, you can go max of 10 blocks. And it all stored in memory. Nothing was in a database and persisted when I closed and reopened it. So, okay. So I'm happy with that. I'm not going to go test all the different directions. One day I'll do that, but for now it seems like everything seems to be working as expected. I'm not seeing anything really weird yet. I guess the next thing to test would be making another region. We can test that because we don't have any extra regions yet. So I would have to go somewhere that's all right. So what land blocks did it create in the other regions I already have here? So in 3, I have 2550. So that's my northern one. That's going to put me the very bottom row halfway across. That's I need to get to the very top of that one. We have 025 and 6. And 6, oops, no. 6 is to the right of the current region I have. And it's 25 up. Well, 25 down from there. So that doesn't get me any closer. I got nothing that's super close. So I need to do. I'm just going to have to create a bunch of land blocks. I don't see any way around it. All right, let's create north. Queued. Load. We have a north. Move north. Create north. Queued. Load. We have a north. Keep going. Oh, wait, I didn't actually hit the button. I was sitting there waiting for it to tell me it did it. I didn't actually hit the damn button. Load, it's there. Great north. Load. There. Going pretty quick. I'm happy with it so far, how fast it's moving. Okay, so there's our 5-second delay clicking in. There it is. Created it. It's going to take forever. But that's okay. It's further showing that moving is not an instant process. I just want to see a new region get created is what I'm going for here. I'm gonna do this 40 more times. It was a weird refresh. Hey, Alf, can you come click some buttons for me? Get me up to y equals 0 really quick. Could I do this directly in the database? Absolutely. Am I going to? Absolutely not. I'm already halfway there. I'm already invested in this method. This is just a way to exercise the code. But this is infinitely generating at this point, technically. Oops, already queued. Hey, look at there. Look at that. New. Actually worked. I double clicked it because I didn't know if I clicked it or not yet. The beginning of our infinitely generated world. We can make land blocks. It's not me hard coding it into code or manually typing it into the database. It's just working. I didn't hit create. Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we should not have. We got all these land blocks here. Wait, 0, already exists because I told it to create it. So now at 4551 about, there should be another region now. We should have. We have two regions. Why do we have two? Yes, we have two regions because where we are at 0, at the top left corner of our land block, or our region, or the top left corner of this region means we need the region right above us and the region to our caddy corner also created. If we were on the other side, if we were anywhere other than this land block, this top corner, it would have only done the one north of us. So it would have only done 0, -2. But also had to do -1, -2, because you could quickly get over there. We want that created. If we were on the other side, it would have done this guy and the top right land block. So it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Beautiful. So now, back to this. Move north. We still have nothing. If we create a north, should create it. And now we should be in region 0, -2. Yep. And if we create a west, we're going to end up in -1, -2. Boom. It freaking works. It's awesome. Oh, it's awesome. And if we go southeast, we're going to be back in 0, -1. Yep. Cool. And it did update the northwest grid here for this, so I can move back northwest now or southeast, and they're tied together now, just like they're supposed to be. Awesome. That worked. All right, so I do want to update my queue to have a start and end time, not just an end time, and not just a scheduled start time or a created time. But we are now traversing land blocks. Next step, subland blocks. Problem is, well, no, I can regen all of these. I will. I should just add a button that is a force regen of this land block here. So let me do that first. Can we also add a button that admin overrides and force regens the currently loaded land block? Let's get that on there, and then we will have it correct or add the column to the queue. I should close this. It freaking works. I am very happy. And it's not even 7 o'clock. Which means we have to start figuring out sub-land block stuff. And that's the part where things start becoming pretty. We might just have it. Let's think. Okay, so what we should see then is in the database, if it actually tested it right, I hit refresh. What order is this? It says not in any proper order. Sort descending. So admin override on 25.0. And that would have already existed, right? So now if I come into here and refresh, it's not at the top because it's not the most recently created land block. It's going to be down. That's 2550. Ugh. I don't want to go find it. It didn't make a new one. That's what all I know. It just reset the adjacency data. So, which is what you'd expect. It should not update all of that stuff. So, oh wait. Oh, this is the ID of the work item. What am I thinking? That's right. Okay. Okay. Let's just see if it looks right before we bless it. What did you do, you bastard? What? All right. Whatever. So while we got this open, let's think about this. For the sub land block stuff, I kind of need like a sub land block, just a view. Like put a land block ID in there, show me the sub land blocks on it. Because then it'll be similar to this in that we're not going to have all this text because that's just too much. Like we'll have enough data just by looking at the colors and the text, the letters and everything on there. But we'll start with just viewing the data, and then we'll add on some buttons that traverse around it and show us the properties of. Well, we'll have the grid of the subland blocks, and then we'll have what the properties are of that subland block, and then the buttons to move around it, and that should all update and move around for that land block. I'm not too worried about currently making it in the admin tool, at least. We're going to have to start a client at some point, I feel. Maybe not. I could make it have similar stuff, and if I move off of the edge of the land block grid, it does a similar thing. Like if it needs to generate it, it generates it. Generates the land block, and then I'll refresh it, and then I'll be able to go all the way over. And then see the new land block, and it'll reload the page. So I think we'll leave land block lookup the way it is. This is fine. And then we'll add the sub land block lookup and have traversal around that, because that's going to be a different layout. Otherwise, this just gets to be very cluttered. So, okay. So the last thing I want to do here is, now that I've seen the queue more in action, I want to be able to capture one extra data point for performance metrics. We have the created date, the next attempt date, and the completed date. But we are missing the date it was picked up to be worked. Having that date allows me to see how long an item sat in queue before being picked up, and then how long after being picked up did it take to complete. So please add that column to the queue and update the appropriate queries to set it at the time the item is picked up by the worker. Job to work. Boom. It's going to be completely independent of the stuff that's already changed, which has not been much. So we'll be able to see it fairly easily. Get that fixed. And I think, let me go back and look at the issue here. Does this finish one of our phase 2 issues? The phase 2 land block manager. Oh, well, this is just not ever going to exist. um, this is just wrong. Did I never read this one? On first generation of land block, adjacent blocks are queued for generation. No, it's on first traversal of a land block, then needed. And that's more of a movement base. Yeah. Generated land blocks are persistent on first right. The same block is never generated twice. Yeah. This doesn't really belong here. Some of this stuff is more client. I feel like we're going to have some sort of dummy client at some point that isn't necessarily from Godot, but is something. We've basically got this done, and not so much the memory cache part. We've kind of got that bit done. Just trying to think how to do this one. This is not true. This will be a different transaction. Yeah, so really out of these two, this I'm not sure where we would put that right now. Because that doesn't belong in the admin tool. But I also don't think we're really testing properly that when the client gets to a land block that is missing an adjacent land block, it immediately has to generate those or queue those to be generated. I think we're missing that. I'm not sure where to put that yet. Because at this point, we've only been building admin stuff. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I guess we could do phase 2 of this admin tool to do that. Like if I load in a land block and it's missing, it immediately queues them up. But then at that point, those buttons are always going to say move. Well, not necessarily. Initially, they might not. They won't. And then I'll hit refresh, and then all of the adjacent ones should fill in, and they should all say move. So I guess we could still do that in the admin tool. And then that has the same effect as what we want to do. Now, the hot recently accessed blocks, that doesn't make much sense if I'm not building the actual. I guess what does that mean? I put that in a memory cache. I'm putting that in a memory cache in the API, I guess. This is the admin API. I don't need it there. This would be the client API. That's the only thing that applies to. I haven't built any of that. It almost feels like I need to start building the client side so I can both test with the admin tool to do quick things and then also have the client side see, okay, did what I implement that works in the admin tool actually work in the client? Hmm. Which means I have to learn Godot, which might be okay. I'll probably be playing games tomorrow's stream just to relax for Friday night. And then I'll have the weekend to learn Godot, I guess. If I'm not lazily playing video games, which is also entirely possible. Hi, bud. How you doing? What's up? You already? What is on your ear? You're a numbnut. Give me your face. Get over here. Get in your ear. No, just because it's on your ear doesn't mean you get to eat it. Numbnut. Stuck your head in something outside and got leaves in your ear. Crazy. That boy. You just love your scratchies. Gonna bury your head there and let me scratch you forever? Is that what we're doing here, boy? Yeah, Mr. Bud. Okay. What I gotta keep touching your back with my arm? Is that how this works? Okay, fine. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to. I think we're gonna have. I don't know any way around it. I mean, I know we didn't really say we were gonna make a UI and all that stuff till phase 6. I just don't know how we build all this stuff and pray that we can build a UI that uses it all effectively. I just don't. I don't like that. I feel like we need to build it as we go. I have changed my mind on how I'm breaking up these phases. It might not be the final UI and all that stuff in the client, but it needs to at least be representative of testing the bits that we build as we build them. I might have to do a little bit of reworking of these phases as well this weekend. Yeah, you think so, Alf? You agree? Now boop your nose. I'm gonna boop your nose again. Weirdo. Okay, so this thing finished its thing. As a nullable started at column set every time the worker claims the request. Good. I'm glad it figured out including retries. That's correct for performance sake. I didn't think it was going to be many changes to do this. So we've got a migration script. Not that one. I always pick the wrong one. What are the name differences here? Which one always comes second? No, the designer always comes second. Okay, so I never want the designer. It's always the first one. Got it. So we're adding a started at column is nullable. And we're adding that to the object. Hi. Oh, you want to get close and get cuddly. Oh, you want to get close and get cuddly, huh? 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 Yeah, is that what you want? You want to lick my hand? You weirdo. What are you doing? You're funny, Alf. Okay, that's enough. You're so crazy with your licks. You're so crazy with your licks. Yes, you are. All right, so we're adding that column. This one here, so the claim batch now also sets the started at time. Did you gag yourself, boy? And admin tool stuff didn't change, yeah. Okay, I didn't think it was going to be big changes, just very minor. Perfect. Oh, God. And now you see, he's a very sensitive, like, chest. If you push on it too hard, he just gags. So when I give him a hug, if I hug him in the wrong way, he's weird. He's sensitive. Everything about him is sensitive. What am I looking for? Database. And he made me cough too, apparently. So the request now, if I refresh, all started as null and everything except the one that it tested. Wow. That's pretty good. 90 milliseconds? Not bad. To create a land block. And was that an existing zone? That was the existing region. So still not bad. Because it was created at 15,495. And if I didn't have that started time, all I would know is, well, it took it a little over 3 seconds to do it. And that's not accurate. It sat there and waited for the trigger to fire to check the queue. And once it got it, now it only took 90 milliseconds. So cool. Okay. Let me commit that. All right. Added land block traversal to the admin tool, as well as started dates to the queue items for performance tracking. We commit all that. And then, Mr. Claude, do the PR because I don't want to write it. That's actually one of its shorter summaries. I like it. We were doing some big ones before that were some long summaries that make sense. But once I start doing this in smaller chunks, it's going to be shorter like this. As a land block generation quest queue and a court's worker job that drains it. Yep. Adds admin rest endpoints to fetch land block ID and queue generation requests, list requests, and generate a specific neighbor of an existing land block. Adds 8 direction neighbor grid to the WF admin tool. Yeah. Add started at so that the worker claims a request. The queue wait created at the started at and processing time started at the completed at can be measured separately. Yes. I like metrics. Data points make me happy. Seeds, the ring. Yep. And more ADRs. Okay. Now, before I do that, before I commit this, are there any other bits of documentation, of existing documentation that need to be updated as part of this PR? Okay, so we fixed my Claude MD. Oh, yeah. Is that so? Are you grunty, Alf? I've been inside with you all day today. I didn't have any grass to cut. You had some lap time during meetings. You got cuddle time tonight. There's no boom boom from thunder or fireworks. And you're still not happy. You're never happy, Alf. And this is where it's nice. I have to go find all these documents. It's nice to have documentation. It sucks to maintain the documentation. Thankfully, I don't have to. The claw, we fixed the current build phase. It makes sense. To do, the checklist got updated. Current build phase was old. Updated some stuff in there. No GDD. Okay, so what all did it change? Completed in phase 2. Good coordinates added. Landblock generation logic. On demand. Postgres queue. Quartz worker job. Yeah. Admin rest endpoints. Sub landblock generation. I do have this as a separate thing. I do need to yeah, I'm gonna have to rework this. I'm gonna do some I mean, we could do it now, technically, I guess. We could think through a little bit of that and just have it kind of work out a plan for what we could change. I don't think it's too drastic because the main gist that we are the phases in here. No. It should be in to do. Yeah. So this one is land block generator. That's all done. Yeah, okay. Because we really didn't put in this until phase 6, and I feel like that is gonna have to happen earlier to at least exercise the client APIs and what they do and make sure there's nothing lacking on them. Maybe we think through that a little bit for the rest of the scene because I don't want to get into sub land block generation tonight because that's a big one, and I've got to go pull data, not data, but the code and get that into Claude's reference. Say, hey, look in here, and I've started this, but we need to refine both the code and potentially the all the weights and everything to make things look more realistic. So this is where AI might actually be pretty good because instead of me just generating a block and looking at that looks pretty good, it can generate a whole bunch on the fly and analyze them and tell me what it looks like. So that's actually going to be really helpful. I know because we do similar stuff with, like, for example, crash dumps, thousands of crash dumps from things at work. Yeah, you could look at them one at a time and try to dig into them and find what the problem is, and look at the next one and look at the next one. You just give it all, let it analyze it, and it saves so much time, and you get to the root of the cause so much faster. So yeah, I think we'll get this stuff committed, and then we will work through how we're going to test the. Wait, phase 2 should all be checked off too, or phase 1 should all be checked too. I totally forgot about this to do file. What changed in README? More containers, yeah, databases. Can you also mark all of phase 1 complete. Do since that is done. Thank you, sir. Okay, so let's get these up here. And we shall, well, did it take that one? It did not get that, did it? I need to make, okay. And now update the PR with the latest local commit. Oh, I just didn't push it. That's why I didn't show up. What am I thinking? Push. Now it should show up in that PR. Yep. Done. I can do that. There's nothing to build. It's just documentation updated. Boom. All right, get rid of that branch. We got to do it here too, because even pools and everything here, don't get rid of it. Not found the repository. Well, that's a start. Yet it still shows here. Don't get it. It just shouldn't be here. So annoying. All right. So now that we've got all that in, Mr. Alf, how do we do this? I know the vet says you're not the brightest cookie in the jar, but you know, you're still Alf. We need to figure out how to get phase 6 spread out. All right, so let's go here. Let's go here. Delete all these. So these. Let's put all. Oh my god! Went off to the other computer. Well, oh, the Claude MD doesn't matter. That's just a reference to the other Claude. So we just need that. And then, hey, we just put this whole docs folder. Will it let me do that? Due to network issues, it just doesn't like it. I don't think it likes a folder. Boom. I think it really needs those, but whatever. Okay. I've updated all the current documentation, but am starting to think phase 6 can't entirely wait until the end. we have only built the admin tools API, but nothing for a client yet because we don't have a client. I don't see a way around at least starting a rudimentary? Nope. Okay, got it. Rudimentary client to force us to create and exercise client API methods to make sure there are no gaps, at least for the bare bones version of a client. Otherwise, it will never get exercised and will potentially have a bunch of tech debt unknown, I should say. Unknown tech debt pop up at the very end when we should just be making the final UI and graphics in phase 6. Am I missing something completely here? Or should we go ahead and start adjusting the implementation plan a bit to start getting our heads around Godot and the client API? He's reckoning. I don't see a way around this, to be fair. Which is okay because I do want to get. I don't want to. I feel like I can't leave that till the very end. Now that we're getting into this more, I don't think that was the right choice that we made. Let me say we, I. And start making some rudimentary graphics and everything too to make sure those all work. Start getting more of my money's worth for my Adobe subscription because I'm not going to let generative AI make all my graphics. Nope. It might look like ass initially, but I will learn to get better. Two structural facts make it worse than usual API design and a vacuum risk. Uh-oh. Your admin tool doesn't prove anything about the game API. Yes, that's why I'm talking. That's exactly what I said. Yep. I'm not so worried about the auth right now. I just want things to work. We'll do with auth later. Okay. I mean, I bet that's where I was going with it. Yeah. It says 4A. So 4A, I feel like it's now, but let's entertain it and see what it's thinking. So 4A is travel and movement. So that is after we finish all of our world generation and we populate the world with mobs and events and landing zones and settlements and NPCs. So it wants to put it there. I just don't know. I mean, I can mimic all of the world gen on access stuff in the admin tool. That's fine. And all the code that's building is not in the admin tool and not just the admin API. It's shared code. So it's not like it's all getting thrown away. Um, and all of this stuff. So mob spawning is a function of when we generate the sub land block, it's going to set characteristics on that of what mobs can spawn and everything. We're not actually going to do it here, but this implements it. So that's probably okay to not need a client. Event placement, not necessary, except for the Signal R stuff. That won't be happening yet. Because when those happen, there's potentially we're shooting that out as a notification to the client. Landing zones. That's more of just determining how do we figure out where do we put a player when they first start the game. Keep people spread out. What are the starting areas? Where are settlements? And this kind of goes hand in hand with it. Where do they initially exist, and what services are available there from the get-go, which also includes NPCs in those, and then in the wild, which is another characteristic of the subland block, is does an NPC spawn here? So yeah, this is really mostly an extension of subland block generation. So I can kind of get behind that, I guess. Because I don't need to see that in the client yet. The only one that's iffy is the event notifications. Um, okay. So where we go here? It said 4A, it's the first system that produces a player-facing REST endpoint and a timer and a Signal R completion push. Why is there a Signal R completion push? What does it think about it? Travel timers are not Signal R. Well, I guess kind of. When we hit the land block, we'll get the initial when it loads, how much time is left. The client will do it's just time, so the client can manage counting, but the server will have to have sent a Signal R saying, yes, their timer is up. And maybe that's like an every 5 seconds thing that keeps things in sync. So yeah, I guess there is some signal R there. Don't retrofit it against 4A work you may have already scoped without it. Do it as you build for a travel intent endpoint. The endpoint contract gets shaped by an actual consumer instead of being guessed at server side and rediscovered wrong later. I know it's not a free lunch. Cheap early signal and the two things most likely to hurt the auth token lifecycle and a client signal R and GD script, and it pressure tests your API contracts while they're still cheap to change. Against context switching cost on a solo project. You're mid phase 2, not even into phase 4 yet, and jumping to spike. Oh, so the against doing it at this very second is I don't necessarily need it right now. Pro is that it gets this stuff worked out, but that I don't gain much time for that one. So, okay. Boy, settle down. Okay. So yeah. I also put off the authentication bit just simply by everything being local host only and port driven, but I do need to eventually figure that out. And to its point, if I'm going to have a problem, if there's a potential problem with Signal R with GD script, then I want to know if there's a potential problem with JWT tokens and authentication and all that. So maybe we do a proof of concept of that working in Godot first, before we go too far, I should say. Hmm. Also forces me to really understand the proper way to use JWTs. Huh. When you look at this, it doesn't even anywhere in here doesn't even talk about doing the authentication at this point. It's just a thought that has to happen now that I just put off. So I should probably figure all of that out. I don't have to build any of the client API other than like a hello method, just to like a login and a hello method or whatever the methods are for the authentication bit, plus something to test the fact that the authentication works. Something simple that's just like a ping method, and it'll just return the current state of your authentication level with the server, and do that with Godot to make sure that all works. And similarly, a Signal R thing, which is another thing I've not had to do in real life before. My everything I've ever done has been client initiated, not server initiated. So, I've done async stuff in client where it calls something and works off in the background and waits for the response, but that's not Signal R. Yeah, it's probably be good to do that now. So basically, I have homework for the weekend. Is I've already got Godot set up. Like I don't have to that I did that bit early on, so I have Godot. It's already got a client um, created. We already have a client. Um, so I just need to actually start building something in here that tests it. So, hmm. Okay, so I think that the plan is going to be needs to be work with Godot now to prototype um, both JWT authentication processes um, and Signal R integration to make sure we can get them to work as expected before we get too far down the road. Then starting in 4A, pick Godot back up and um, make dirty UIs slash test harnesses for all the APIs and buttons to make sure GD script can handle all the requests, responses as expected before we get to the very end. That will also drive keeping the client API up to snuff with the admin API features. Did I read that right? Or is it going to say, no, you're wrong? I want to tell me I'm wrong. It's okay. I asked it to tell me if I'm wrong. Where the transport layer works is different activity than exercising API surface area, and conflating them is how spikes turn into unplanned feature work. Two refinements before I start. On the auth spike, keep it narrower than 2 is written as 2 is written as RS-256 rotating refresh tokens, family-based revocation. None of that proves anything about GD script. What the spike actually needs to prove is can HTTP request host credentials, receive a JWT, attach it as a bearer header on the next call, and have the server's RS-256 validation middleware accepted. That's a login endpoint issuing one access token and a single protected test route, nothing else. refresh rotation, revocation on reuse, family invalidation. Those are server-side correctness properties you'd verify with integration tests or curl scripts, not by clicking a button in Godot. If the spike scope quietly grows to implement all of that ADR, you've turned a de-risking exercise into pulling the entirety of 4A's auth prerequisite forward, which is much bigger and less honest commitment than what you're describing. Okay, so so basically these bits are all server side. Because if I do a refresh, it's just going to be that I return another JW2 and it's going to save it off. It's just a different token for it to use later. So that doesn't matter. Revocation on reuse, yeah, it's the same thing. It's just going to start failing the calls. It doesn't have anything to do with Godot. And then me banning it basically is what the family invalidation is doing, is the same idea. It's just the calls will start failing. So all that matters is that you can get this round trip to work. You can get it to get a JWT token in the first place, and then on the next call, post with it in the header with the proper validation middleware accepting it. So, okay. Now that makes sense. There's no reason to all the other stuff right out of the gate. On the single R spike, use a throwaway hub, not a real one. No game hub exists yet. Travel completion push doesn't exist until 4A, so the spike needs a disposable hub with one method. Server pings every few seconds. Client logs what it receives purely to prove the handshake invocation envelope round trips through Godot's WebSocket peer. They don't want 4A's real travel. Yeah, it makes sense. Didn't I say proof of a prototype? Yeah, it's a prototype. Same idea. Yeah, I'm not implementing all the UI. It's just buttons and crap to make it work. There might be more than one scene just because it might be too many buttons to put in a single scene. I'm going to be clicking pixels to get things to work. But get the idea. Yeah, I agree with everything it's got here. Okay, can you provide me with updated versions of the documents that need to change and the additional ADRs, one or more? Do the work for me, Claude. I don't want to do it. Documentation is boring to do. It's great to have. Don't you agree, Alf? Isn't documentation good to have? I wish you came with documentation. You tell me how to keep you calm. I don't know what you're begging for, bud. You already had your potty break. You already had your greenie before the stream started. You're not getting another one, Mr. Winker. We'll be done here soon, bud. Kind of coming to a point that I'm not going to be able to get a lot done in an hour. So We'll see when it changes, and it might be that we'll feed these to Claude Code, have it do the actual updates to them, and also update any Git issues that update and or add any Git issues we need for this, so that it's tracked. You're weird, Alf. You know that? Oh God, why is it typing so slow? Okay, good. I was like, damn, what the hell? Did it go into slow mode? What boy? So rude. You just stare. Come sit. Come sit, boy. Thank you. You come stare at me up here. You gotta stare at me on the camera. You gotta come cuddle with me. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You gotta come cuddle with me. Yeah, there you go. I know you wanted to cuddle. That's a boy. Yeah. Now you're a happy dog. Yeah. That's my boy. You're a funny dog. This is much slower than Claude Code updating this. It would have already been done. We'll see what it comes back with. I could have just copied this whole conversation to Claude Code and said, hey, read this crap, updated documentation. It would have gone way faster, I think. What do you think, Alf? You think it would have gone way faster? Yeah. Now that you're here watching it too? 'Mean, like Dr. Evil petting the top of your head. What you doing? You gonna start typing for me? You just want to lick my keyboard. Really? Holy. The hell is this? 5 files. New ADR. The implementation plan to do Claude and decisions. Okay. Download all. Okay, so we get a new window open. Huh? Do this. Open in. Oh my God. Yes, I want to cancel BitLocker setup. That's definitely not what I wanted to do. Why is that in the right click menu? That seems like the worst place to put that option. All right, so this guy, replace. This guy, replace. And then here, Claude. And do this all with one hand, otherwise I'd be doing multiple files at once. Trust me. Doggy is holding my other arm. Okay, so let's go into here. See what changed. So pre-4A. I was actually going to put that up here like now. But really wants to do it after. Okay, that's fine. Maybe I don't have to learn Godot this weekend. That's good. Oh my God, Alf. He's just being rude. He's burying his head underneath my keyboard lap thing. Minimal. Yeah. Okay. Hi. You back up under my belly now? Okay, so I just added something on all of those. Got it. Decisions, added the ADR. Implementation plan. Doesn't have to be behind phase 3 completion. Okay, it's just whenever. All right, so whenever I feel like doing it, I can do it. Okay. And then this one, that little bit. And then what it means. And a big old ADR. Okay. So now, what was I going to have Claude Code do? Oh, check the GitHub issues. So then we'll come over here. And new session. And we'll make a new branch called client. Oops, that's your nose, Alf. Sorry. I didn't mean to rub your nose. You're not a genie. Your nose isn't a genie. Client timing update. Man, I type really crappy with one hand. New main, bring them along. We could try to talk this one out and see how the mic works. Dictation settings. Well, it's got the right one picked. That's good. Yeah, I think I want to say before I say it because it's going to be me rambling on. Let me let it plan. So there's an updated version of documentation based off of another conversation regarding when the client API and client should start getting some attention. I need you to look at that and determine what adjustments need to be made to any Git issues or any new Git issues to track this. There we go. So we'll see if this works. Oh God, yes. Zero. Um, it says hold. I didn't have to hold. It just stayed on. Okay. There's some new documentation in this branch about how we're going to handle the client and doing some earlier testing and keeping it working along the way rather than waiting till the very end. Have a look at it and determine what GitHub issues need to be updated or added to account for this change. I did pretty good at listening to my voice. Not bad. I wonder what it would interpret a bark as if Alf barked in the middle of that. What? You got a burp? Did you have a burp? You just needed an extra finger lick. You weird dog. You're a funny doggy. You okay? Did you fart? You farted, didn't you, Alf? I'm holding you here. You're going to sit in your fart smell with me. You're not getting away. I'm sorry. Oh. I know. It makes you gag, doesn't it, Alf? What do you want to do about this, Alf? Hmm? What do you want to do about this? This is not animal abuse. This is teaching you a lesson about your farts. All right, so 40 were filed before decision and don't reflect it. Number 17 through 40. All right, so let's look and see what those are. Issues 40. Okay, so 2 through 40. That's all of them, basically. That's basically saying everything is out of date. Issues 23 through 30, phases 4A through H, and 30 in phase 5 have no client API harness acceptance criteria, even though it's exercised indirectly. We'll bring the issue tracker in sync with the doc changes already on this. So we're going to new issue. Yeah. Body, blah, 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 blah. All those issues append one acceptance criteria to each. Update phase 5 with accepted criterion. Note the harness retirement. Yeah, okay. Do it. Mr. Gaseous Alf. You always have gas, Alf. I don't even know why. You just like to fart on your dad. Yeah. What? You trying to push away? Are you trying to push away out of your filth? Hmm? Is that what you're trying to do, Alf? You don't want to sit in your cloud of gas anymore? Hmm? Yeah. You're such a weird. Oh my goodness, Alf. And licking my hand like a beast. You good? Is it clean? Is it clean, boy? Okay, that's enough. Nasty boy. Yeah. Is this a good way to cuddle with your dad? Do you like this, Alf? Does 25 not exist? Oh, loot generation system. Yeah, it doesn't really need it for that. So, yes, it is no standalone harness entry and is exercise V20. Okay. Okay, so those all got updated then. So we should be able to look at any of these. See, last edited by me 1 minute ago. Nice. So where did it put it? Oh, it just sticks this thing on here. Okay, I see. Dirt. Cool. And then we should have an extra one. It's going to be at the very top. It is brand new, which means I can no longer order in any good order anymore, which sucks, but oh well. And that's our Signal RWT auth test harness. Okay. And I can push this stuff out. Updating documentation for more client testing throughout development. It all push create browser. I don't want to write all this. No, I'm lazy. Create the PR. As as little as it takes, it's just so much easier to push a button. This is going to be incredibly verbose for what's changing. I have a feeling, but it's whatever. Let's see. It's not too bad. Hope this doesn't close. Yeah. Okay, so that's in. These are still open, yeah. All right, come back here, do that, pull the latest, delete this, delete the remote that doesn't actually exist anymore. All right. Cool. Well then, I think that is a good stopping point for the night, and I think Alf agrees. Don't you? Don't you? Yeah, you agree. You always agree with your dad, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So we'll call it there. Tomorrow we'll probably be gaming, and the week on some games, and then I'll probably do some of this over the weekend. Try to get things organized for what's coming next, and we'll pick up here next week. Probably on Tuesday, unless weird weather or changes happen at work that make me pick another day. So, should call it there. Let's have a look really quick, like make sure nobody that I know is streaming. Don't move the page, thank you. Nope. Cool. All right. Well, we'll call it there. Thank you all for hanging out and watching me ramble through stuff. And we will do some more dev next week. Have a good evening. And if you're not here for games tomorrow, have a good weekend as well. Talk to you later. Bye for now.